twisting and dying. I mean, you got him. You nailed him.
No, sir. He got himself. I don't get people, I get stories.
I have no power to prosecute. I have only the power to embarrass, to humiliate, to expose.
What you want to do is you want to go have a one-on-one confrontation with another human being. That is, you want it to be people. You want it to be a person who is doing something bad and being called for it. And let's see what his response is. Isn't that right?
No, is the short answer.
If you think Mr. Smirch is going to let Mike Wallace get at Mr. Agee on this story, you will believe that thunder curdles milk.
Let me ask Dan why he thinks he universally doesn't get through.
Because maybe he's got a good memory.
Is it because businessmen are afraid, or is it the reputation of fair treatment?
If I were a car company, I'd be delighted if the whole world thought that everybody that worked for me was named Mr. Good Wrench. Well, his name is not Mr. Good Wrench, and his name isn't Mr. Bad Wrench. His name is Mr. Wrench.
Is what Mr. Hewitt does good journalism?
Good evening. I'm Dan Rather. What you've just seen is a sample of an argument that's being waged increasingly today, the press on one side, business on the other. Someone recently said they get along about as well as the Hatfields and the McCoys. We thought that it might ventilate things if the press and business sat down eye to eye and talked about it. We brought together television journalists from inside and outside CBS News, print journalists, public relations executives, business people, lawyers, and government officials. Business in the media was one of the issues discussed in 9 hours in Princeton, New Jersey. We didn't talk about the past or the present. We used the hypothetical method. What would you do if? CBS News and Columbia University Journalism School's Media and Society Seminar sponsored these sessions. This broadcast was taped last month. It has been edited, but edited in sequence. The moderator is law professor Charles Nesson of Harvard. He will begin in a moment.
This is a CBS News special. Eye on the media, business and the press.
Mr. Glauber, you get a telephone call. Comes from an acquaintance of yours who works for the Environmental Protection Agency. He says to you, Steve, I think there's something you guys might be interested in. I think the investigative hour might like to do a program on space heaters. You know, they're selling like hotcakes. They're just a hot product. A lot of people are buying space heaters. And there's been some serious question raised as to whether they're dangerous. I think there's a story in it. What's more, one of the reasons I think so is a guy called me up who works for Zuber. You know, they're the biggest manufacturer. And he told me that Zuber is fudging some of the data on the safety statistics. And I think he'd talk to you. Is that interesting to you?
You bet.
What's going on in your mind? Are you saying to yourself, maybe there's going to be a program here?
Yes, sir.
At this point, are you on your own?
If I'm going to go out there, I will first check with the correspondent with whom I work, who's Mike Wallace. Maybe talk to Don Hewitt if I see Don, who's our executive producer.
What do you mean, check with Mike Wallace? Go check it with him. He's right there.
Mike got a phone call as follows, and I go through the phone call.
This is just an advice thing? This is just check in with...
Yes.
With Wallace?
Informal, colleague-to-colleague conversation.
You want to make sure that he likes it, okay?
I want to make sure he doesn't hate it. I want to make sure he's interested and I want to come back and hear that Mike thinks it's just a terrible idea.
What do you say to him, Mr. Wallace?
It sounds like a wonderful story.
All right, Mr. Glauber, you're in pretty good shape. You've got it through Mr. Wallace so far. What's your next step?
Go see the person Zuber. Go check perhaps with the Consumer Product Safety Commission if they've done any tests. Check Fire Administration.
Let's stop with the fellow at Zuber, okay?
Okay.
Here I am. Hi, Mr. Glauber. How you doing?
Terrific. Glad that you could see me.
You're from the investigative hour, huh?
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure I want to talk to you.
Well, your friend who said I could use his name said that you had some documents, you had some leads, you had some information about the safety aspects of kerosene heaters, and I'm here to try to find out as best I can what the problems might be.
I tell you, this is a real problem, this business with the space heaters, and I care a lot about it. But I'm not working. I could use a little money. If I'm going to help you, it's going to take time, it's going to take effort. You're going to be drawing on my knowledge of this business. I know you people sell your advertising for a lot of money. How about it?
I would be I could rightfully go to our standards. I'm very sorry. We cannot pay sources.
I didn't say anything about being a source. I'm just going to help you. You mean you can't pay somebody who helps you put together a story?
We do occasionally, as I understand it, pay reporters who are not themselves interested in, have no self-interest in the project. Occasionally pay them, though I've never been involved in a project that's done that.
I don't want to be a reporter. I'd sort of like to be a consultant. How about that, a consultant? Consultant to the project.
Well, I think we're going down the road a little bit too much on consultancies and fees, and I came out of information, and why don't we first talk a little bit about that, and we'll get to the other stuff later.
Mr. Wallace, you got any problem with him talking to me as a consultant?
No, but I'd want to talk to Hewitt and Koloff about it. You happen to have at the table the four of the five fellas who make those determinations.
How about it, Mr. Hewitt?
No way.
No way.
No way.
Why no way?
A guy called Steve and said there's a guy at this company who feels very strongly that there are unsafe space heaters out in the country killing people. You yourself said to Steve, you care a lot about space heaters. You care about $5,000 worth in your pocket about space heaters. You don't care about space heaters. You're looking for a job. And I'm wary of you from what I've learned from Steve and Mike.
Tell me what's bothering you, Mr. Hewitt. It's clearly not the money, is it? I mean, you got plenty of money to spend.
Oh, yeah, it is the money. It's the principle of the money, sure.
I'm not understanding what you're worried about, Mr. Hewitt. Is it the pay for information, or is it somebody is going to say that you pay for information?
But one day we'll find out that anything we want to find out, some guy's got his hand out. He said, hey, you paid the guy from the kerosene company. I'm not going to talk to you unless you pay me. And then you end up paying everybody in the country who knows that everybody's selling information everywhere. It's a bad practice to start.
I want to know when you think it's legit to pay somebody and when you don't. Tell me.
I think that when it's a big enough story that somebody has some expertise that we need and want and can act as a consultant and guide us, it is not out of the realm of possibility that you would put him on the payroll for a limited amount of time to guide you in areas that you know nothing about. If you know enough about his credentials and you know enough about the guy, and he isn't just some guy who got fired who is looking to make some fast money.
And you could use that person then as a basis for testing ideas against, making suggestions where to go, how to set things up.
But not put him on the air.
Not put him on the air?
No, not if you're paying him. You can't, I don't think he can be an interview subject if you're paying him, unless you tell the audience that this man is on our payroll and this man we're talking to is on our payroll, but that's not a good idea. You can use him as sources, but I don't think he should be a principal in the story.
I, out there in TV viewerland, would love to hear from this guy. Why isn't he the best person for you to be putting on the air?
Well, in certain cases, we might. I think you ought to talk to Mr. Koloff, because there's a management standards problem here on when people who are paid as consultants can appear on the air and when they can't.
Wait a minute. Why suddenly you want me to talk to Koloff?
Because he gets paid to do that.
The buck passes to you, Mr. Koloff. Thanks to Mr. Hewitt.
Literally the
Anytime,
buck.
Don.
Literally the buck.
Make it simple for me. I'm out there in TV land. I'm trying to understand space heaters. I'm trying to figure out whether I want to buy one. And then Mr. Hewitt's going to put on a program that's going to educate me a little bit about space heaters. And the question that he's stopped on is whether he's going to put on air the best expert he could find, so good that he's ready to pay him for his help. And apparently, he thinks there's a problem in putting that expert on the air, just because he's paid him. I don't understand it.
We do not want to get ourselves in situations in which it appears, whether or not there is, some type of conflict, that is, that we had paid for information and a person who subsequently appeared on air. Because it puts a cloud on the mind of the viewer.
You don't want to appear to have done something wrong,
Correct.
even though you haven't done anything wrong.
Correct.
Mr. Hewitt, why'd you pass it over to Mr. Koloff?
Because when it comes to paying consultants or information, that's a management decision.
All right, let me-
I think you're making a basic
No.
mistake. You think we're a consumer group. We're not. We're a news organization. We're covering a news story. We're not out there, you know, we don't have any mandate to be the consumer's friend or to be a testing laboratory. Or we're not, you know, it's a news story.
You're running a news organization. That's the way you see yourself. And you've got a guy who's got great information. Management's got an appearance problem. They got an appearance problem. They're going to keep him off because they don't want a cloud. They don't want a cloud.
Nobody wants a cloud.
So your credibility counts more than the
And
story.
how? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mr. Rivera, what's his problem?
I believe his problem is that several years ago, the broadcast journalist industry particularly began a period of masochistic self-inspection. And
Masochistic self-inspection.
his problem
Gee,
is
that's great. Write that down, write that down, write that down.
we've gone beyond the bounds even of our own need to be ethical, and we are very concerned that others in our extremely competitive business will interpret for their own good and act as innocuous as paying someone with very valuable information. We call him a consultant, but you're actually buying his information, whether we call it his service or not. We go through this dance, but that's another function of this whole process. The second point I'd like to make is the reason he called Koloff is that when you enter into these gray areas, areas that have only become gray in recent years, the prudent thing to do is to wrap yourself in the mantle of the corporation, the multinational, multi-billion-dollar corporation for which you work. Why put your own individual career on the line when you can say it's not me making this decision, it's ABC News or indeed ABC Inc. making this decision?
Oh, I see.
So when we get past
I mean,
the,
Hewitt knows exactly what he's doing by
bel-
passing the buck over here to Koloff.
I believe that...
He's young, he's good-looking, he's expendable.
Emphasis on the expendable.
Now, let's move it along a little bit and see how this story starts to come together. One of the things that your consultant tells you, Mr. Glauber, is he tells you that one of the biggest problems in this little industry is that although the manufacturer says perfectly clearly, put kerosene in the heaters, top grade 1K kerosene. The fact is that when you go out to buy kerosene, you can buy all sorts of stuff. And the fact is, if you took it back and tested it, it might be number 2, number 3, who knows what. And what that means is that if you burn it in the space heater, you get a lot more emissions of noxious fumes, toxic kinds of fumes. Much more sulfur dioxide burns out of it. And if you happen to be an asthmatic, or a pregnant woman, or somebody with emphysema, you could be in serious trouble. You figure, all right, we'll test it out, test it out. And you hop in your car and you go down to the local station and you walk in, you say, hey, I'd like to buy some kerosene, and it's exactly the way he described it. There's the sign. Crystal clear kerosene. And you get something, and when you give it to your expert and he tests it, he says, hey, this is not top quality stuff. That sound like something that might wind up on the program?
Yes.
Am I hearing a mm-hmm from Mr. Hewitt?
Sure, of course.
Sound pretty good, Mr. Wallace? Mr. Rivera, you like it?
Yes.
I'm doing pretty good so far.
I don't know, we haven't asked Koloff.
Policy specifically permits it.
Is there anything in this little scene? I mean, so far all you've done is you've done it by yourself. You didn't have a camera crew with you. Would you think of replicating the scene with a camera crew?
Presuming that research bore out that it is a common problem that people cannot buy the high-grade quality kerosene they need, I would certainly consider doing the same thing with camera that I did without camera.
How about after you've tested it and it turns out not to be the top grade stuff? Would you consider having Mr. Wallace walk back in at that point?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wallace, you say to this person behind the counter, hey, I bought this kerosene, somebody else here from our program bought this kerosene here the day before yesterday, and we've had it tested, and this is not top quality kerosene.
It's not 1K, it's 2K.
What do you say about that? Is that what you say?
Probably.
Fellow says, hey, look, I run a gas station. I buy kerosene. I sell it. Where do you go from there?
Where did you get it? Are you aware of the difference between 1K and 2K? Do you know the potential dangers of using 2K in this kind of a kerosene heater? Are you aware of the fact of the fumes that can be emitted? Is it conceivable that this will explode? You try to find out how much the salesperson knows. Chances are the salesperson doesn't even know.
You're going to put it to this person. Are you aware that what you're doing is seriously endangering people?
Yeah, that's a pretty good question.
That's the way you're going to educate the public. Through your questions, you're going to give the public the information about what the risks are of selling this lower grade stuff.
Through the questions and the answers, yes. What you're saying is buyer beware.
Does it bother you at all that this guy that you're asking the question of is now a pariah in his community?
Why, he may or may not be a pariah. Chances are he's no pariah. Chances are that he's simply a fellow doing a job, being paid, and goes home at night. And is maybe unaware of the fact that the 2K is potentially more dangerous than the 1K.
Yes, but if you've done your job well, you've really had that fellow squirming a little bit, haven't you?
You're not really concerned about whether he is going to squirm or not squirm. What you're trying to do is to find out some information, because there's a good many people, hundreds of people, who are not going to squirm, but who conceivably can get quite ill or conceivably can die if they're buying the wrong kind of kerosene for this particular kerosene heater.
Mr. Wallace, What you want to do is you want to go have a one-on-one confrontation with another human being. That is, you want it to be people. You want it to be a person who is doing something bad and being called for it. And let's see what his response is. Isn't that right?
No, is the short answer. No, is the short answer. To suggest that we are not interested in telling in microcosm a story about kerosene heaters and the use of various grades of kerosene, of course we're interested in telling a story. And we are saying to the public, watch it, because though it is cheaper and though it is a space heater, there are dangers.
Yes, look, don't get me wrong. I'm not for a moment suggesting that you're not interested in the broader picture and conveying it in the course of your 15 minutes. But what I am suggesting is that one of your ways of conveying is to humanize the problem with a person-to-person confrontation. I mean, there it's going to be. You are going to say to this person, hey, you are doing something wrong. What do you say about it? Right?
Yeah. It's a moment in which you understand quickly what the human factor is. You reach people very well that way, in a very, I'm not ashamed to use the word, in a very dramatic way, to say, wait a minute. This fellow is selling something that is potentially dangerous. He doesn't understand that it's potentially dangerous. Poor fellow's doing a job, and it reaches all kinds of people in a very effective way.
Mr. Rather, how'd you feel the night after you interviewed that fella in the meat locker? Showed him that stamp and watched him squirm and die in front of the camera. Finally run away behind the meat and hide. Was that good?
I thought we'd done a good job, yes.
Did you
Took no joy in his discomfort, but I thought we'd done a good job.
You say you took no joy in his discomfort.
No.
Did his discomfort bother you in any way?
Yes, probably less in his case than some others, but anybody's personal discomfort bothers me. But I thought we'd done a good job on the story. And I called Steve Glauber and told him that.
Don't get me wrong, I thought it was a great story. I loved it. I tell you, I especially loved the part where this guy was twisting and dying. I mean, you got him. You nailed him.
No, sir. He got himself. I don't get people, I get stories. That man got himself. I didn't get him.
Mr. Agee, you're the boss of this company.
I sure don't want to be the head of Zuber Manufacturing Company. And,
well, maybe somebody will bid you out, who knows?
okay. Well, I was going to say along that line that, suspecting that I might be in this role today, I decided that if I did get the opportunity to respond, that I would say that as the head of Zuber and finding myself in this particular situation, I think the first thing I would do would be to go to my investment bankers and lawyers and see if we couldn't arrange a quick sale of this company to a conglomerate like United Technologies or Martin Marietta.
This CBS News special, Eye on the Media, Business and the Press, will continue.
Mr. Rather, let's go for the big guy.
How do we get Mr. Agee?
Yeah, there he is. There he is.
How do we get him for the interview?
Yes. How do we get him
Well, the
to
honest
interview?
answer is we probably don't, because he's probably surrounded himself with someone such as Mr. Schmertz.
Got Schmertz. Keeps Schmertz in a closet right next to his office.
And if you think Mr. Schmertz is going to let Mike Wallace get at Mr. Agee on this story, you will believe that thunder curdles milk. He is not going to let Mr. Wallace anywhere near Mr. Agee.
Is that right, Mr. Schmertz?
Not a bit. Not a bit.
What's not a bit?
what Mr. Rather said.
No truth in that.
It may turn out he goes on, it may turn out he does not go on, as far as my advice, but there's no preconceived notion whether he's going on or not. And Dan is saying that going in, there's no way that I'm going to recommend he goes on. That's not true.
Make the
Try me.
Make the call. See if you can get the interview.
Dial a number. This is Dan Rather, CBS News, 60 Minutes. I'd like to speak to Mr. Agee, please.
Hello?
Ken? Yes, very likely.
I can honestly say to you, Mr. Rather, that if you called, I would speak to you.
I can honestly say to you, Mr. Agee, that I respect you as a man of truth, but I don't think under these circumstances you would. But
And I can honestly say to you that thunder does curdle milk.
Mr. Agee, we're doing a story on space heaters. And I would like to come with camera and microphone to talk to you about it, please.
What specifically do you have in mind?
Well, I'd like to talk to you about that when we get there. I can only say to you that it's a story we've been working on for some little while, and we have some very, what I consider to be serious accusations about the heaters and the company.
Stop right there. You've already taken a tack now. You're right into accusation. He now knows, hey, this is you at your toughest coming at him with accusations.
No.
Is that likely to make him more open to the interview?
Oh, well, first, I wouldn't consider that my toughest, certainly not Mike's toughest, but I don't know whether it's making him more likely or less likely. That's not in my mind.
Why do you tell him you're coming at him with accusations?
Because I want to come at him as truthfully as I possibly can, and under these circumstances, I think that would be increase our chances of Mr. Agee talking to us.
You would never lead a subject to think that the interview might be friendlier than it in fact was?
No, the reason I pause is because frequently interview subjects lead themselves to believe that. And I wouldn't necessarily say to him, wait a minute, you have an idea this is going to be a friendly interview, and let me put you on notice that it isn't going to be.
You wouldn't correct a misconception?
Not necessarily.
But you're telling me you wouldn't create a misconception?
No, I wouldn't.
Go ahead with Mr. Agee, Mr. Rather.
He probably is going to see me.
And he's probably going to see you,
Yeah.
Because he
I don't think he'll
figures...
do the interview, mind you. I think he probably will see me. But the difficulty so often is getting through to Mr. Agee. See, I am miles ahead of where I generally can be because I actually have Mr. Agee on the phone. Most of the time, not only can I not get Mr. Agee, I can't get Mr. Agee's assistant or Mr. Agee's assistant's assistant. I'll be lucky if I can get his public relations executive. I might get Smirch's secretary.
No, you'd get me, Dan.
One thing I know...
I'd like to mark that.
One of the...
One way or another, you'd get me.
Mr. Keller, would he get you?
Yes, he would. I think.
Right through.
I think.
Hey,
Mr.
hello,
Lawrence-
Dan. Yes, nice to talk to you.
I'm sure the answer is yes. As a practical matter, as long as I'm not in the middle of a meeting or something, universally accept a call from the press, at least if it's somebody I know at all.
Mr. Allen, to get right through to you?
Yes. Mr. Ness, let me ask Dan why he thinks he universally doesn't get through.
Maybe he's got a good memory.
Is it because businessmen are afraid, or is it the reputation of fair treatment?
Ah, good question. Good question. You want to know not whether it happens. You'll credit the fact that he doesn't get through. You want to know his analysis of why it happens that he doesn't get through.
Yeah, I think, I'm really surprised that he said it.
Yeah.
Because I think most responsible businessmen today would take his call and defend themselves as best they can. And I think it's a carryover of prejudice that doesn't exist in modern business.
Yeah. Well, let me add to that.
Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. of them.
let me add
Somebody
to that.
behind me said, with all due respect. I know those are fighting words. Now, who said that? Mr. Lawrence. With all due respect, Mr. Lawrence.
I'm not speaking of the people at this table because we're in a hypothetical situation, but let me tell you that 90% of the businessmen in this country would not pick up the phone when the press calls. Maybe 10% would, maybe 10 years ago 1% would. We've had improvement, but boy, we haven't had that much improvement.
I don't disagree with that, although the number may be a little high, but there are good reasons, number one, why they won't take the call directly from the press, and secondly, I'm not sure that...
Why? Why? What do you think?
Well, because they're afraid in their mind that they're going to get entrapped because they think others have been entrapped by taking calls. I mean, there are reasons why they won't take calls, such as they're going to be asked complex questions that they're not going to have the answer to on the phone. They want a chance to get some time to answer questions. I don't think it's terribly meaningful whether the chief executive takes that first call or whether Dan Rather gets the chance somewhere along the line to get what he's after.
Mr. Allen asked you a very interesting question. What is credit the fact that you don't get through, or you get through 10% of the time? What's your analysis of why you don't get through?
I simply don't know. But if you believe that most business executives will be responsible to this kind of call, I can say to you respectfully that you are living in a dream world.
I think they're damn fools then, because I think you're going to butcher them worse.
But Dan...
Well, I'm not in a
Now, wait a minute now, wait a minute. Now we get a hint of what you meant by a responsible businessman. A responsible businessman is one who sizes up the risks for his company and makes the responsible decision that they're going to butcher me worse if I don't talk.
And there's nothing wrong with that evaluation. It's a proper one for you to make. I'm not ashamed of that.
And you think it's an accurate evaluation? They're going to butcher
In my
you worse.
experience,
They're going
it
to
is,
butcher
yeah.
you worse
Yeah.
if you don't talk.
Yeah, I think they are.
So what do you think, Mr. Schmertz? What do you advise Mr. Agee to do?
Well, I would advise Mr. Agee to say to Mr. Rather, why don't you come over without your film crew, without your cameras, bring your researchers, and let's have a chat about the whole situation.
You're a pro at this business, Mr. Schmertz. You've got a motive for trying to get him over so that you can share research with him.
Yes.
Tell us what it is.
I would say to them, look, we understand that if these are misused, just like anything else, if it's misused, can have deaths. On the other hand, everything I've heard in this conversation up to now is negative information to the public about why they should stop using these heaters. We would welcome at Zuber a 15-minute segment on this show which explains to the public what the risks are, but what the tremendous value of this space heater is and how to use it. We couldn't advertise for 100 years and get the kind of opportunity to tell the public how to properly use these so they can get low-cost heating and still protect themselves. If Mr. Rather wants to do that show, we'll cooperate 100%.
What makes you think we don't?
I didn't say you didn't. I've invited him over to discuss. I didn't say you didn't.
Yeah, but you
I
said
didn't
all you've
say-
heard
no,
here
no.
is the thing about the negative
All I
aspects.
heard
We've
in the
only been trying to get information.
All the conversations of what
Nobody
you've
said
been
that.
after is why these things are going to blow up. I haven't heard one bit of research
No.
about how inexpensive these are, how they have a social utility in terms of providing low-cost heating for 7 million people. I haven't heard any of that. If he wants to come over and talk about that, I'm available.
He said he wanted to go over and talk about space heaters.
I'm fine. Come on over and talk about space heaters.
You see, Mr. Neston,
Well, why do we need
You
cameras?
assume,
hold on one second.
that it's negative. Yeah, you made that assumption.
No. I said everything I've heard has been negative. Tell me one positive thing that's been said here
It's
about
what
space
you hear. All I
I've
heard rather say to Mr. Agee, I'd like to come and talk to you about space
You
heaters.
guys are
No, some
running-
accusations.
and you guys are
Accusations.
running
Remember,
around gas
accusations are in there.
stations. What? You guys-
Accusations. That's what he wanted to talk to him
You
about.
guys are running around.
Serious ones.
He wants him to give him a chance to answer
Right.
accusations that have been made. Well,
Right.
that's a very fair thing to do.
Well, where's
absolutely.
the positive? You guys are running around gas
process.
stations. You're running around with veiled faces. I haven't heard anything positive.
How do you respond to him, Mr. Rather? What do you think he's doing?
well, I think what you have here is a quintessential example of the perpetual motion, non-stop, all-American bullshine machine.
Takes one to know one, Don.
I don't know whether that's a compliment or not.
This is what's known in the trade as a fogging device. That this machine pumps out the fog. And Mr. Smertz is one of the best practitioners of his trade. No, I mean it, he is. And if every company had a Herb Smertz, my job would be somewhat easier, because I could say to him, Herb, cut it. I've heard all that. You know I'm not in the business of selling your space heaters. You've made an offer. If I heard you correctly earlier, you said we could, that no cameras and microphones
That's right.
yet, that you would offer Mr. A.G.
I would, yes.
to talk with us. I accept.
I would have no problem with that. No commitment beyond talking.
If that's the most I can get, and I know with you that's the most I can get for the moment. No,
More than you thought.
Yeah. A whole lot more than I thought. And if this were not a hypothetical, it'd be a whole lot more than I get.
Mr. Allen, how do you feel about products that you put out that injure people? Not because they're used according to instructions, but because predictably people use products not according to instructions. How do you feel as a businessman?
I feel badly that people are hurt, but I have to tell you that there are thousands of products on the market today that have the same kind of potential of killing people and maybe have less humanitarian benefit to mankind than space heaters for poor people.
And therefore?
And therefore, I just continue to sell. I go ahead and sell as many as I can.
Not your responsibility.
Oh, I don't think so, no. I can't be responsible for what people do if they are properly informed and they aren't misled and you meet a reasonable, prudent standard of care in carrying out that responsibility. Now, beyond that, if you want to drive a car without brakes and you're going to get killed, that's your problem.
Miss Stahl, you work a different side of this business. Evening news. You ever have the experience of calling up somebody like Mr. Agee and having him say, hey, are you the people that put out that investigative hour? Hey, that's the same bunch, aren't you? I don't want to talk to you. Click.
Well, I've had somebody's secretary pass the message on. I've had the same experience that Dan has. I can't get businessmen on the phone, for the most part.
Does it have anything to do with their fears of this kind of program that we're talking about?
What they don't seem to understand, at least in my opinion, is that we are only as good as the people who talk to us. We're only as good as our sources. And when businessmen slam the phone down, they're cutting off an element of our information. And I, frankly, have never been able to understand it.
I think we're all dancing around here a very central premise that nobody's ever come to grips with at this table. Television and the press do not consider business its adversary. I think business considers the press its adversary, and for a very simple reason. A businessman only wants two things ever said about his company: what he pays his public relations people to say and what he pays his advertising people to say. He doesn't like anyone ever to look above, beyond, or over that. It's understandable. I think I understand that. I would love to go through life with everybody saying, 60 minutes, the quality goes in before the name goes on. Or we're 60 minutes doing what we do best. If I were a car company, I'd be delighted if the whole world thought that everybody that worked for me was named Mr. Goodwrench. Well, his name is not Mr. Goodwrench, and his name isn't Mr. Bad Wrench. His name is Mr. Wrench. And whenever you do anything to play with this carefully tailored image that they have spent millions manicuring and tailoring, they don't like it. I don't blame them.
Let me ask you this. Do you think you would have as many viewers if you had a balanced program?
What do you mean? Yes, we think we have a balanced program.
Do you really?
Yeah, can you I'd like some case in point.
I think that's why businessmen feel that they don't get a fair shake, and that's why maybe they don't call you back.
Mr. Hewitt makes a nice statement about the image that business wants to put out. And he sees himself as in the business of looking beyond the image.
He has every right to.
He's almost necessarily looking for stuff that's not so good, isn't he?
I think there's a lot of stories that don't degrade people or embarrass them, that
They're
have
nice,
a lot of
good, dull stories.
Yeah, yeah.
But you
it's
do
true.
that. Your
Not
PR
so.
people do that, and your advertising. You tell your side of the story. And the public has a right to know that everybody's not named Mr. Goodwrench.
And I agree with you. I agree with you.
Mr. Taylor, you look at this whole debate from a unique vantage point. What's your view of it? Is what Mr. Hewitt does good journalism?
Go on, Fred.
I think it's marvelous drama and has very little to do with journalism a good share of the time.
Zing!
For instance, they don't want to see Mr. Agee. Why would they want to see Mr. Agee? Mike knows how to do it. Read those questions that Agee won't answer. That's tremendous. And so when you call Agee, you call him in a way that he's not going to let you within 3 miles of his office, let alone come in.
I can't believe that I'm hearing this from you. I really cannot believe it.
Mr. Wallace, do you think that the way he reports on business is good journalism?
Yes.
Why won't you say the same for him? I mean, that's...
Because I don't think it's journalism. I think it's show business. And I think it's wonderful.
You're not in show business.
Not me.
No, you're a journalist.
No, right.
No show business in the way you do it.
Well, a little show.
Mr. Taylor, what's the matter with a little show business connected with information?
No, there's nothing the matter with a little show business connected with information. You got to keep people interested. We try and make them interested in the way we write.
You happen to have a readership that likes your stuff, right? I mean, you care about who your readership is and whether you reach them. And you do what you need to do to reach your readership.
Well,
now, why won't you give the same
I'm not
to the TV
I'm not
journalist?
saying that they shouldn't be on television. I'm not saying they shouldn't be doing what they're doing. What I'm saying is it's not journalism.
You don't believe it on the front page of the Wall Street Journal? There's a mix of human interest stories and hard news stories that encompass a whole range of journalism?
Of course there is.
Why is that different from the
difference between sticking that camera in a guy's
face and... That's a difference
and...
in the medium, not a difference in journalism. It's a difference in the inherent nature of the medium, not saying one is good journalism and one is bad journalism, or one is journalism and one is not journalism. Right. Your center column stories in the Journal are human interest pieces. Are they not journalism? They're very good journalism. They happen to be one kind of print journalism.
Let's assume this story has come out. It's been on the air. And the head of Zuber, Mr. Keller, is outraged at the story. He thinks it's just desperately unfair to him, to his product, to the viewing public. Who do you call, Mr. Keller? You're mad. You're mad. Who do you call?
Well, certainly I'd make a first approach, having probably at this point talked both with Mr. Smertz and also with Mr. Lyman. I'm not so much looking for advice as I am a real understanding of what can I do, what recourse can I expect, what is it that I can ask that I have a reasonable chance of enforcing if it becomes necessary that this become a court situation.
Can you give it to him in a nutshell?
Sure. In theory, you have a lawsuit for defamation if they have presented a false picture of the product. It's a right that will be expensive and burdensome for you to enforce, but it may be a right that you can use in trying to get something on their program next week that will point out that there were 6,999,083 people who bought this heater without incident, and only 17 who did suffer and that you can't give IQ tests before you sell your product.
Mr. Keller, what's the objective of your call?
The objective is certainly to get access to his audience. No question about that in my mind.
Mr. Hewitt,
I don't know of any other way to get to them.
Suppose he says to you, I'd like a little airtime. A couple of minutes to make my response.
Why? What did we do that was dishonest? What errors did we make in reporting about your company, sir?
You edited me viciously in a totally unbalanced way.
That's judgmental.
But we all know the truth is got a lot of point of view in it. Got a lot of judgment in it. There's a lot of call in it. There's an hour and a half of film on the floor in the editing room and 45 seconds in the final piece. And somewhere in that pile of stuff, there's a lot of truth. And his truth is on the floor. And your truth is in the 45 seconds.
Maybe the one place that television needs to come up to the standards of press today is in providing some sort of op-ed forum. ABC is doing it. I think we all wrestle with that. I think it's going to come. I think it's one place that newspapers have it all over us.
Suppose, let's just take an example. Suppose Keller says to you, Mr. Koloff, I'd like to put together a decent presentation on how badly that show treated our company. And what I need to do it is I need all the outtakes. I need all of the transcripts from which editing was done so that I can show you how badly edited that program was.
Well, since he's presumably most aggrieved by what he believes to be the...
The whole gamut. He wants the whole thing. Don't make the question go away. He wants all the outtakes.
I would say no.
The question, though, is whether somebody can second-guess you, whether somebody can look over your shoulder and make a judgment. Yes, you're the editor. We're not saying you're not the editor, but let us be in a position of seeing whether you do a good job editing or not. And the only way we can see is to see what you leave in and what you leave out. If you don't show us what you leave out, we can't tell.
People can second-guess us by going to court. People can second-guess us in other ways, but they're not going to second-guess us by substituting their editorial judgment for our editorial judgment.
But Mr. Koloff, aren't you stonewalling just as much as Mr. Agee was stonewalling over here? You're saying, yes, if you can prove it, if you can prove that we did a bad job, more power to you. Of course, we are going to do everything we can not to give you any ammunition that would let you prove it. Isn't that true?
Stonewalling is your characterization, but I think that if you're saying, are we trying to protect
What do you call
our
it?
editorial process? Protect our editorial process.
Protect your
You may
editorial
call
process.
it stonewalling.
Protect your editorial process.
In a judgmental business, indeed, there may be things that we want to protect, just as there are things Mr. Agee wants to protect. I don't think that his wanting to protect them is evil. I don't think that our wanting to protect them is evil.
Well, I'm delighted to see that we have brought this discussion to its appropriate resting point as a legal problem to be worked out by lawyers, both in the media and without. And with that, I thank you all very much.
And this is 900.
This has been a CBS News special. Eye on the Media, Business and the Press.
But if you believe that most business executives,
And I think if you got any facts on your side and you come out and lay it out for them, I think you're going to come out better for your company.